So good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome. Did you know that you can keep stress at bay just by following your passion? Well, I'll give you an example. Our guest of honor today, he heads a 20,000 crore lifestyle major, and yet he's completely stress-free. How does he do it? मैं जिंदगी का साथ निभाता चला गया, हर फिक्र को धुएं में उड़ाता चला गया. What are these passions, you may ask? Well, when he is not humming classics sung by Kishore Kumar, Muhammad Rafi, or Mukesh, he is making poha and sabudana khichdi in his kitchen. And that's not all. He even finds time to translate historical Tamil novels into ebooks, with the longest one running for 78 hours. Yes, commendable. Time is ticking, and he's here, the MD of Titan, Mr. K Venkataraman. And before we learn more about Titan and talk about Mr. Venkat, I won't take much time because the stage is his. It's the Titan and its impressive performance. I would like to say a few words about Millennium Mams, which has clocked almost 30 years. Our mentors are great mentors, Mr. Vishnu Dhanuka and Mr. Sanjay Bhuwania. They felt that to be truly independent women, we needed to be financially literate, and founded Millennium Mams, which has grown in leaps and bounds to touching lives of more than 6,000 mams till today. Thank you, sirs. Titan and Millennium Mams, they share a rare bond. We modeled for Tanishq Red Carpet Collection in 2017. Sir, with the same gusto, Millennium Mams would like to model once again for your latest collection. If you have the inclination, we have the time. And we've had the opportunity of meeting Mr. Bhaskar Bhatt, the ex-MD of Titan, and also visited the factory of Titan. And it has been visited by our Kolkata as well as Bangalore Mams. Titan has certainly moved ahead with the times. From watches to jewelry, Titan is repositioning itself as a younger and modern brand to truly overcome the impact of the pandemic. For us investors, sir, that's music to our ears. So friends, let us all welcome Mr. Venkataraman and find out more about the future outlook of the Titan company. Sir, over to you. It's all yours.
Thank you very much, Rachna and the Millennium Mams. And she spoke about Har Fikr Ko Dhuein Mein Udata Chala Gaya. I actually stopped smoking way back in 1989 on the first wedding anniversary of my first wedding anniversary, because I promised my wife. She used to keep pestering me in the first year of our marriage. Then I told her, look, if you stop, talking to me about it every day, I promise I will give up on the first wedding anniversary. And I said it just to basically postpone the problem. But it was a promise. And after many years of smoking, I gave up on the first wedding anniversary, by the way. So that is the story of the smoke. I have been in Titan. I've completed 31 years in Titan. It's more than a home to me. And in a way, what I wanted to speak today was not so much about the future. Maybe some of it may be there. But in a way, more importantly for us, what makes Titan special. and particularly for the kind of investment philosophy that all of you have with Omaha in the center of your, in the center of that philosophy, I think you will appreciate the Titan philosophy also. And therefore, from a value investing point of view, it's very much aligned to that same thinking. And so we consider ourselves more as an institution, much less as a business enterprise. And at the center of our philosophy, thinking, even strategy, if you will, is what we articulate as multiple stakeholder focus. So customers, employees, distributors, vendors, community, environment, government, and then shareholders. It's not necessarily in that order that shareholders are the last, but we actually believe that if we were to emphasize all these stakeholders, which is starting from customers all the way to the government, all these stakeholders will in a way gather together, will form a large, huge team, will create a common purpose and deliver to the interests of all the stakeholders, including the shareholders. And that is at the center of our view. It is about inclusive growth. It is about shared prosperity. It is about equity for all. Not equal, but equitable. Some of you may be familiar with the Good to Great book written in the early 90s by Jim Collins. And the principle enunciated in that book was that good, and he used the word good in that sense about average performing companies, and how good was the enemy of the great. So if you were satisfied with what he termed as good performance, then it was the enemy of great performance. And great performance, as defined by that thinking in that book, which became a kind of institutionalized philosophy, particularly in the West, was quarter on quarter earnings growth and therefore the market cap growth for companies. And very few companies in that long list were deemed to be great, the rest were all good. And somehow that greatness of a company was determined essentially, primarily in the financial performance and consistent financial performance terms. Now, because of that, one of the things that a lot, sorry about that, I live, those were some planes passing by. Now, because of that kind of thinking, Western companies driven by stock markets, driven by investment banks and private equity, started putting profits and market cap not just at the center of their life, but to the exclusion of everything else. And because of that, what happened was that the inequality in the world started rising, particularly in the last 3 decades. And if we take any country, most countries in the world, including in India, there is a certain part of the population, and typically I would say the top 10% of the population, and of course, even more marked top 1%, even more marked is the top 0.1%. If any of you happen to read a story by Ruchir Sharma, I think it was in yesterday's Times of India, it's a very large article about how during 2020 year, the billionaires in the world got so much richer.
Yeah.
And but even if you keep the billionaires out of it, but just look at all those people who are well off, the top 10% income and wealth concentrated people, their share dramatically changed in the last 2 to 3 decades. And with that, inequality increased. The bottom 50% of the world was not at all touched. And new concepts like triple bottom line, ESG, performance and progress, started becoming part of the vocabulary of those people who wanted to visualize a better, newer world. And a new paradigm of capitalism, a multiple stakeholder focus, is the sustainable way, started doing the rounds. And as part of the Tata Group, as part of Titan Company, we have lived this multiple stakeholder focus from day one. In fact, the Tatas have done it, way back. Mr. Jamshedji Tata, free enterprise, the community is not just another stakeholder in business, but is in fact the very purpose of its existence. When people get some, good fortune in their life, or a big event is about to happen in their lives, they often go to visit a big temple like a Tirupati or a Sabarimala or Kashi or something like that. In September of 2019, just before I took on my new responsibility as managing director, I went to Navsari, which is the birthplace of Jamshedji Tata, and went to the home. And he was born and he grew up. And in a way, went there to sort of pray and take his blessings. Because the reason why I joined the Tatas in 1990 was about what this statement actually encapsulates, which is so much for the development of the country, not so much for itself. Even during the pandemic, for example, Tata Sons had committed close to 2,000 crores for pandemic relief. Tata Trust, and the group must be one of the maybe 2 or 3 industrial groups in the world which are ultimately owned by trusts, and 2/3 by trusts, and all the dividend income of the holding company goes, 65% of that goes into the hands of the trust to be redistributed back to the society. And therefore, living that dream of that community being the very purpose of the existence of a business enterprise. So in a way, the emphasis in the Tata Group, in Titan, was not just around sustainability. It was not only about, if we do not have a multiple stakeholder focus, we will not survive in this new world. It was as much about the rights of those multiple stakeholders, about the fairness, how much they deserved an equitable share of the prosperity. Not just, if we don't give it to them, we will not survive. It was not from our point of view, it was from their point of view. And that is Titan's multiple stakeholder focus. And that's what I wanted to, talk about today. Right from day one, for example, way back in 1986, we recruited young women and men just out of school, and we trained them in watch manufacturing. And almost all of them today, they're in their mid to late 40s, and they have seen a very different world, a very different prosperity compared to what most of them are likely to have enjoyed had they not been picked by Titan at that time. We enabled a women's cooperative venture for watch assembly and jewelry manufacture, again, way back in the late 80s and the early 90s. We gave employment for more than 100 differently abled people in 1987. Many of you are from Kolkata. You are aware that much of, or a good part of, the Indian jewelry manufacture happens in Kolkata. I have been to so many of those units over the last 15 years. It's actually quite horrendous, the conditions in which those karigars work to create such beautiful jewelry. And my first visit was in 2005, and we vowed to ourselves that we will transform the manner in which our jewelry is made. And we have come a long way in that. And it was not only because of the sustainability aspect of it, because frankly, in 2005, the triple bottom line and all that was not that well known. Companies were not under pressure from impact investors and people like that. It was just that our own feelings of fairness were troubled by what we saw in Kolkata, and we said it is simply not fair for that Karigar to be working in those conditions when the company is doing so well. So we set up what we call the Karigar parks, the Karigar centers, which have become the benchmark in the jewelry uh, manufacturing of today. We said we should put a smile on the Karigar's face. We uh, invested substantial amount of money in corporate social responsibility much before it became law. So this is, in a way, uh, under an underpinning of Titan Company, the manner in which we look at our distributors, our franchisees, our vendor partners, and of course, our employees as well. And during the COVID times, how did this philosophy manifest? Right in the beginning, we started making empathy calls to customers. We made millions of empathy calls way back in April of 2020. And our primary objective at that time was to just check on the well-being of the customers. Were they okay? Was there anything that we could do to do help? And we put in a gold standard safety protocol in every one of our Tanishq, Titan, iPlus, Tanera stores. The safety was given so much of attention to make sure that the customers were feeling very, very comfortable coming there. We did a lot of things for employees, advanced closure. Even before the government suggested or mandated closure of stores, we closed stores before that. We would put a substantial focus on safety in terms of rostering, in terms of commuting support, in terms of the processes through which they entered every office, every store, every manufacturing location. We did total pay protection, job protection, hospitalization cover, and substantial enabling policies and processes for working from home and working from office. For example, in the first quarter of FY21, when we were staring at the biggest loss in our history, and certainly in my living memory, the leadership decided that we will support vendor partners, we will support distributors, franchisees with credits and loans and grants to support their employees, give insurance for their employees, COVID hospitalization, and we set up transit homes for Karigars. When they came back from post-COVID, we organized buses for them to leave Hosur and Trichur and Coimbatore to go back to Midnapur and Asansol and all that, paid for those buses. And in a way, put all other stakeholders in the center of our focus as opposed to the shareholder. When the natural tendency of any business enterprise would be to look at the company and the shareholder and therefore cut salaries, cut jobs, maybe really squeeze vendors or distributors, and so on and so forth, including our NGO work. For example, we support close to 30,000 girl children through our Titan Kanya program. And we looked outward, outside into the families of those Titan Kanya girls and said whoever was out of job, whoever was having any other livelihood issue, we put money to support them while keeping our CSR programs running. We did substantial medical relief support, contribution to the TADA group efforts. Continuing our environmental, CSR programs. Those of you who come to our new campus once the pandemic goes out of our life, you can get to see the beautiful lake, huge lake that we have helped rejuvenate next to our campus. And of course, we keep contributing to the Chief Minister COVID Relief Fund. So in a sense, we kept the shareholder really last in the sequence during pandemic as well, and just made sure that all our other stakeholders were comfortable, they were in a good economic situation, they were removed from whatever anxiety that they would face, and you know, kept in a mood where they could worry about neither worry about COVID nor worry about their own economic situation, and just focus on getting the company back on its feet. And that's what finally they did. They did an exceptional job, and I'm talking about the salespeople in our stores, in our distributor operations, the karigars and the workers in the back end, and all the employees of Titan Company, and even the customers of Titan Company. You know, because of all that goodwill that all this generated, they simply paid back with, you know, more and more with gratitude. Uh, and the actual financial sales and financial performance during FY21 was rather better than what we had estimated, and to some extent rather better than what the market had expected. And therefore, the shareholders ended up benefiting in terms of profits, in terms of market cap during FY21. So, in all this, therefore, uh, there is one central philosophy, which is consideration for every stakeholder. And there is one central view, which is that with great power comes great responsibility, as the Spider-Man movie has taught us. And it's a firm belief that in the center of all this, in the center of all these stakeholders, is the most important, most powerful entity, which is the company. And if you really look at it hard, the company is the most powerful entity with respect to customers, with respect to employees, distributors, vendors, community, whatever stakeholder you take. And therefore, if the company were to look at its power, then the responsibility to its stakeholders would so easily manifest itself, so easily uh, show itself and say, look, it's actually a small thing for us to spend on, because a company, as all of us know, is a going concern. This is the tragedy of immense proportions. If we were to invest a 50 crores, 100 crores here and there, for a company like us, for example, which makes 2,500 crores ballpark profit, a company which has got a net worth in the 7,000 crore ballpark, what is 50 crores? What is 100 crores? And a company which has got a huge upside sitting in terms of a 300,000 crore jewelry industry with a 20,000 crore kind of sale, and therefore a very, very small market share of a very large industry with at least another 2-3 decades of growth, you know, sitting in it, with many other balls in the air, which are all to be played very well. What is 50 crores? What is 100 crores? But that 50 crores or that 100 crores together can go a long way to alleviate the sufferings or the difficulties of employees and distributors and franchisees and community and all that. And therefore, if any company were to do this, it's the right balance, it's the right approach. And those people in whose lives we are making a huge difference with that 50 or 100 crores will return it many times. Whereas if we were to be, in a way, penny wise and pound foolish, and want to save this 50 crores or save this 100 crores by cutting jobs, cutting salaries, you know, make people demotivated, make people afraid of the future, not lose a little bit of confidence in the future, then it is a vicious spiral. And even if they were to understand why the company is doing it, but their motivation levels drop, their confidence drops, their morale reduces, and therefore their ability to overcome the challenge reduces, and the result could be a 500 crore kind of impact on the company's bottom line, whereas a 50 crore or a 100 crore expenditure may return 5 times that sum. So this, even from a return on investment point of view, but like I said in the beginning, it was so much about the fairness of this whole thing, the deserving case of all these stakeholders in the overall prosperity of the company. So it is the right of those stakeholders to a due share from the growth, a due share from the prosperity, and not just the connection between if we do not do it, we will have trouble in the future from a company growth point of view. So this is the philosophy, approach, thinking that I wanted to share today, and then leave Rachna to ask various questions.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing the philosophy of Titan. Thank you for your opening remarks, and also how Titan is more of an institution than a business enterprise, as you shared with us about inclusive growth, about equity for all, and how you were making empathy calls during the pandemic. It speaks volumes about the greatness of the company, I would say, sir. And the popularity of Titan, the numbers today, 327, that too speaks a lot about the brand Titan, I would say, sir. Sir, you had mentioned that you and your colleagues, they were thrown into a deep end of the pool because of the crisis, but you knew how to thrive in a crisis. What drives these qualities in you? Is it inherent or you have a role model? So, would you like to share with us? How was the experience?
Um, I think somewhere in all this is how you look at life overall. What is your view of yourself? Uh, which are the driving aspects which give you satisfaction and so on? Now, for example, if Venkatraman is defined entirely by his role as the CEO of Titan, then it can be quite a swamping kind of situation. Then Titan becomes the be all and end all of his life. All the time he's thinking about, I mean, or anybody is thinking about that role. And in a way, you take yourself more seriously than you should.
Mhm.
You think you impute a greater level of importance to yourself. You attribute the success or failure of your enterprise more to you than, frankly, it should be.
Yes.
Forgetting that there are, uh, you know, about 30,000 people in the enterprise who finally deliver that 20,000 crores.
Mhm.
There may be 10,000 workers and karigars and all who create all those jewelry. And there are more than 15,000 salespeople who sell that jewelry. And boond se banta hai sagar, right?
Absolutely.
So if you forget that, and if you think you're a king or you're a part of some 7, 8 kings, the
Mhm.
entire leadership, I think that is a overall philosophy of life that I will I will say and keep that aside.
Yeah.
The second thing is uh, when you are not only defined by your CEO or your main, whatever you do.
Yeah.
You could be owner of a business, for example.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah.
If your definition of yourself is only by that aspect of your life, then I think it is also boring. Apart from that, it introduces tremendous tension into your life. Whereas if you have, for example, what you spoke in the beginning of about me, so how much of Venkat's joy comes from the Venkat's role as a maker of poha?
Yes.
What joy comes from a singer of songs, a runner? I mean, I run a lot.
Mhm.
So there are 4 or 5 things that I do which define me. In my view, I'm not just the CEO of Titan. I'm a runner, I'm a singer, I'm a cook. I create these audiobooks. I'm a good father, hopefully a very good husband, and so on and so forth. So this multiple personalities, it does 2 things. One is it reduces the share of work, that is the CEO part in my life, substantially. And therefore, whatever is the stress that comes with that, it comes only to the extent of 40 or 50 or whatever percent, and not 100%. The other thing is, because I do these four or five other things, and they have the intrinsic advantage of creating a lot of positive energy, a lot of dopamine kind of effect, and that helps in substantially reducing whatever stress that other 50% that CEO job brings into my life. And in the pandemic, so this is at any time I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
But in the pandemic, particularly, what happened was I realized that, look, this is not at all a crisis of my making. It is not a crisis of anybody's making, frankly. And it is a global crisis. Nobody is going to blame me if I don't succeed in overcoming. It is such a big crisis. Therefore, why worry? Therefore, you just remove all the worries from your head, because everybody has this crisis and it is nobody's fault. And nobody is going to blame me if I fail in succeeding, right? So, first of all, you liberate yourself from the anxiety. The second is you look at the assets on hand. What kind of a company we are? How much of people potential? Those 30,000 people that I spoke of. All of them would give their life to Titan. You can't find a power like that. It's rare, at least. I'm sure it is there in some other companies, but not that many companies.
It's rare to find. Yes, absolutely.
And the other thing is the assets in terms of our market share, in terms of our capabilities, in terms of our brand strength, in terms of even the category in which we operate. Like jewelry is a very unusual category. In good times, people buy a lot of jewelry. In bad times, they buy a lot of jewelry because they feel safe with jewelry, right? So I knew that jewelry will recover fast. So calmness, composure, confidence was the three words I have used over the last 1 year to sort of not at all feel bad about the fact that we were thrown into the deep end of the pool.
Wow.
And I ended up communicating this to a large number of people in the company. Say, chill, no problem. We will come out of it. And that, I think, was a good way for everyone to relax and just simply go about and do what they were supposed to do.
Definitely. Very soon we'll come out of it. So now I won't take any more time and pass it on to Meghna, who wants to ask the first question.
Good evening, sir. Sir, hallmarking of gold jewelry is being made mandatory this year. So what will its impact be on the jewelry sector, in your opinion, sir?
Thank you, Meghna. It's actually a very good thing for the jewelry industry. And even today, for example, we have a program called General Exchange Policy, which is we buy jewelry of other jewelers, gold jewelry of other jewelers in exchange for Tanishq jewelry. And surprisingly, and this is now 25 years old, we launched it in 1996. Surprisingly, even after 25 years, the average purity of the gold that we buy every day is still below 20 carats, which means that even after 25 years of our launching the carat meter, the purity of the industry is still, struggling, because otherwise one would have expected maybe, okay, in the 20th century, in the last 5 years, maybe it was 19 carat, then it should have become 20 carat, then it should have become 21 carat, and so on, as more and more jewelers started, selling 22 carat jewelry. But obviously, it has not happened like that. And therefore, I'm actually quite bullish on when this happens. What will happen is that jewelers will obviously be forced to upgrade. When they upgrade, what happens is that the arbitrage that they had of selling a 20 carat jewelry as 22 carat and making that 8 or 9% money, that arbitrage will be lost, and they have to increase their price to keep them in the same place, and that will reduce the price gap between them and Tanishq materially. And therefore, I'm quite bullish about the prospects for Tanishq post. And of course, from a customer point of view, customers will benefit. Everyone will get 22 carat or 20 carat or 24 carat as it is marked.
Beautifully explained. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, next question, Nidhi, you may come in, please.
Good evening, sir. Sir, I wanted to ask you about the smartwatch plan of Titan. The global smartwatch market was valued at 20.64 billion in 2019 and it's projected to reach 96.31 billion by 2027 with a CAGR of 19.6%. And in business today, sir, you had mentioned that the watches and wearables division, the profit has shot up to 316 crore in the financial year 2019 from 168 crores. How do you plan to increase this market, sir, in India? And what are the challenges that you're facing from tech companies like Boat and Fitbit? Thank you.
Thank you, Nidhi. One of the things we realized early 2019 was that while we had been in the wearables market for about 3 years by then, it was not a natural game for us to play because we were not from the tech, our tech capability was just not there. And we were in a way learning on the job kind of thing and not competing well with any of those at least top 5 companies. Even if I were to keep, a company like Apple outside because it's way too big for us to compete with, even if at the next level companies. And we realized that we needed to acquire that capability, and we scouted, evaluated, and went ahead and acquired a company called Hug Innovations, which is a tech company started by an entrepreneur based in Hyderabad. And that company formally joined us in January of 2020. And a fair amount of work has happened with that company being part of the wearables division. And I'm confident that starting sometime second half of calendar 21, when we will start introducing exciting smart watches. The smart band called Reflex 3, which we introduced in February of 2021, was the first product result of that collaboration of the new technology using our own platform. But the speed at which we need to operate in this market, the scale at which we need to operate in this market in terms of the width of product line, the frequency of new launches, even the visibility in mobile stores, because we are not present in mobile stores, we are present in watch stores and all that. So I think between 12 and 18 months from now is when Titan will be in its sort of rightful place in this category.
Thank you, sir. Looking forward to this exciting space.
Yeah, we really look forward. Yeah, Pooja, you can come in with your question.
Good evening, sir. Sir, experts feel that Titan has done an excellent job of spotting opportunities, but it has not been able to take them to the logical conclusions. So, skin has the potential to be what Titan was to watches. So, could you please share your thought on this?
You're right, Pooja, to some extent. And one of the things that we did around the time that I was moving into a new role was also organize the company a little differently and have some of the new businesses uh, report directly to the managing director of the company. Earlier, skin, for example, reported into the watches division and all that, and was not getting the kind of importance that it deserved. And with, including, for example, the international opportunity for the jewelry business in particular, it was all sitting under the divisions, and in a way, because of the size, was not getting the kind of importance. So we reorganized And all these started reporting to the managing director, in a way, for some time to Bhaskar, the last 6 months of Bhaskar's time, and thereafter to me. And we are certainly looking forward to making a big mark in each one of those, in the perfumes and fragrances business, in the international jewelry business. After many, many years of dreaming, the Tanishq Dubai store was launched because, in a way, of the new structure. Because the international business division now reports directly to the managing director, a lot of things changed in the ambition, in the dreaming, in the resources, in the decision making, in the oversight that the MD has on these and all that. And so the first store, Dubai store, happened in October of 20 and is doing exceedingly well. And we are dreaming big for the GCC countries. Similarly, the skin business and the dreaming of the skin business has started in real earnest. It's just that, unfortunately, because of the COVID year, it's not that the company does not have the resources to invest, because skin is a small business, but with people sitting at home and perhaps not even wearing so much of perfume and all that, it's not the best time to really take off. And hopefully in the next 6 months, when by December, much of this country should be vaccinated, hopefully. And at least, even if people wear masks after that, for a while at least, I think all of us will be going about on the streets, going to other people's homes, we will all be dressing up. Like, for example, till 1 hour back, I was just wearing my t-shirt and talking to my teams, right? I put on my shirt for this. And maybe even many of you in the same thing, I guess. And therefore, we are a company which is all about dressing up. Every product of ours is about dressing up, other than maybe specs. And therefore, in a world where dressing up is not really a big thing today, even the perfume market couldn't be sort of cranked up. But the minute dressing up is back in our lives, which I'm sure it will be,
So I think he's frozen, right?
His
Can you
network's
guys
not.
hear?
No, we can't hear.
Yes.
His
No, he
network's
got
gone.
We
disconnected.
can't hear. We
Yeah,
can't.
we can't
can you
hear.
hear me
Can't
now?
hear. Yeah.
Can
Yeah,
you hear
now
me
it's
now?
okay. Yeah, now it's okay.
Yeah, my current went with that Wi-Fi. I connected on the phone. Sorry
Oh,
about that.
I got a shock. I thought that I'm
So,
frozen, so I was just figuring out.
no. So therefore, with that um, normalcy coming back in our life,
Mhm. Yeah.
all these from a Tanera, which is another beautiful idea, and we want to do with Tanera to the sari industry what we did with Tanishq to the jewelry industry. We're very, very excited, confident, bullish. I don't know how many of you had the Tanera experience at all, but we believe we don't have a store in Kolkata yet, but
Yeah.
those of you who live in
Our
Bangalore,
mams in Bangalore, yeah, they have visited the store.
yeah.
Yes, sir.
So we're very excited about Tanera, excited about Tanishq outside India, excited about the perfumes business. We have bags. We have entered the bags market long back, but we have not done too much work on it. We introduced some excitement into it in the second half of calendar 2019 in the through the fast track bags. There's another category which is waiting for Titan to come and reinvent it and so on. So I think to answer your question specifically, Pooja, the structure change, bringing all these new businesses directly under the managing director, I think is the biggest change which will see the
Okay.
answer to your question. Obviously, we have to prove it.
Right, sir.
We have to prove it by doing it. But to start with, the structure change is the important thing.
Thank you,
Yeah,
sir.
sure.
It's very convincing. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Next question is from Sushila. Sushila.
Yeah, good evening, sir. Uh, the the low studded jewelry ratio, higher contribution of plain gold, coin, and loss from the customs duty impacted your EBITDA margin in the fourth quarter. Do you see this continuing in FY 2022?
Thank you, Sushila. That's a very sharp question. um, the customs duty is a kind of temporary thing. It will continue to be there for a few months in FY22, and then it'll disappear after that. The studded ratio is but as a ratio itself, it's not a bad thing, because just to give you a sense, between FY 06 and FY11, 10 years back, we were wanting to improve the studded ratio from 25 to 40%, and through that improve the EBIT margin to double digits. But what actually happened in those 5 years, the studded ratio did not change at all. It remained more or less around 25%, but we ended up achieving a double digit EBIT margin nevertheless, because the scale of the business went many, many times, because the gold business grew, really exponentially. Therefore, the studded ratio itself is not a measure. The growth in studded is a measure. We need to grow the studded business by in the ballpark of 15% kind of thing for us to keep improving our margin. And we actually did that in FY21 also, but some of these one-time things came and complicated our Q4 performance, as you saw. And I don't see that as a material item for the medium term, but for the first few months of FY22, some of these will persist, but that's okay. It's not something that's losing us any sleep.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Next is Sirisha. She has an interesting question on technology. Yeah, Sirisha, you may come in, please.
Good afternoon. I'm Sirisha. So a family in Bangalore buys 8 lakh worth jewelry online from a store in Kolkata during pandemic. So I would like to ask you, is this is this the right time for the digital transformation that your company is going to see through? What is your outlook for the next couple of years in terms of digital transformation?
Even in July of 2020, we were doing about. Can you hear us? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes.
Yeah. Thanks, Sirisha, for that question. Even starting July 2020, we were doing about 100 crores of sales of Tanishq through video. So what happened was, because of the deep relationships that our sales staff have with customers across the country, one of the things that we could do so easily was actually present 10 or 15 necklaces or pendants or sets of earrings through video. So the salesperson could wear it, show it through video to customer A, customer B, customer C over the day, and in a way sort of mimic an actual store engagement, and help the customer select, let's say, one necklace or shortlist 2 necklaces out of 12, and either dramatically reduce the time that the customer would have to spend in the store during the pandemic fear times, or even choose it, on the call itself. So through this, we ended up doing 100 plus crores of sales. And like Shirisha, you were saying, even 8 lakh and 10 lakh and 15 lakh necklaces were being sold through video. And we found a whole new way or ways of selling through video call, through appointment shopping, through taking the products home to the customer's home, and of course, omni-channel, all that. So through multiple ways, what happened was the company, because of the fortunate investments that we had made into around 2016, we ended up leapfrogging this whole technology journey. I think at least 2 years of acceleration happened. We ended up jumping 2 years through these. And because the customers were also, in a way, open to trying out these new things, I think it was a very win-win kind of thing. So therefore, today we are able to showcase products in our Kolkata stores to a Bengali customer who is walking into a Dickinson Road store or a Koramangala store in Bangalore through endless aisle. And okay, so Shakapola is not available in Bangalore. Obviously, we don't stock Shakapola in Bangalore, or at least not in all stores in Bangalore, or not as much of variety. But the Kamak Street store has. So a customer going to the Bengali customer going to a Koramangala store would be shown the endless aisle. Through the endless aisle, she will look at the Shakapola stock in Kamak. And sometimes we move the stock, and often she places the order uh, online. And we are now getting technologies which help in figuring out the size related complications, because one of the problems with products like jewelry is that size. Like, is it, how big is it? I mean, is it big enough for my ear? Will it be too loose on my wrist, or whatever it is, right? We are now introducing technologies to help customers overcome those barriers as well. Yes, to answer your question, we have taken huge leaps, Shirisha, on with respect to technology.
So here, if I may ask that, are you preparing to leverage the Tata Super App, which the Tata Group is coming up with? Any idea on that, sir?
Nothing yet relating to the Tata Super App, Rachna.
Okay.
Currently, it is all a Titan company effort.
Okay.
We are in conversation with the group company, which is Tata Digital,
Okay.
relating to this, but sometime later.
Okay. Okay, sir. Next, Sunita, you may come in, please.
Good evening, sir. My question is related to Titan Eye Plus. The focus of customers seems to be shifting from frames to the quality of lenses with greater exposure to digital devices. Do you see an increased willingness as well as on part of the customers to pay more for superior lenses? A competitor recently, whose name I will not take, has been very aggressive with their pricing. Will Titan Eye Plus be able to combat that as well? Rachna, I think...
Sir, can you hear, sir? Sir, you have to unmute, sir. I think you're on mute. Yeah.
Sorry, Sunita. I think you started saying something like the quality of lenses appear to be becoming more important.
Yes, more than the look of it, it's the quality, because we are all so much using, digital devices, and it's a strain on the eyes.
Therefore, sorry, is that itself is the question?
My question to you is, sir, the thing is that superior quality lenses are always far more expensive than the ordinary lenses. So a competitor of yours has recently come out with very aggressive pricing on this front. So would Titan Eye Plus be able to combat that pricing?
Actually, one of the most important things that has happened in the eyewear division of last year was actually a substantial stepping up on the quality of the lenses.
Right, sir.
So we introduced two particular lenses which dramatically changed our competitive position. One is the clear sight lens. And
no fog.
And the second is the neo progressive lens.
Right.
And these have actually lifted the perception of Titan lenses hugely in the eyes of the consumers. And it's been a transformational year for the eyewear division. And we have, in fact, It's been so well established who is the expert in this industry. And without doubt, Titan Eye Plus, when it comes to eye care, Titan
Right.
Eye Plus is head and shoulders above everyone else. The industry has been so well established, and we are very confident about our place in the competitive position, notwithstanding the tactical move that you referred to about pricing by somebody else.
Right, sir.
Very, very confident about.
Right, sir. Thank you, sir.
We are running out of time. So one last question from Beena. Beena, you may come in.
Yes. Good evening, sir. Sir, this is taking it from what Pooja asked you. So Titan needs a makeover, so they say. So do you agree? And if so, what is your vision going forward?
Actually, I don't understand what that means.
So well, I was reading an article which says Titan.
No, I'm aware of the article, but I don't understand what it means.
Yeah, if you can be more specific.
No, not she. So, even the person who wrote that, you don't know what that means.
Absolutely.
It's like, for example,
yes, sir.
One of the things that we have ended up becoming is we are an 80% jewelry company today.
Correct.
Correct. And one of the things that this recent article, if I take the Business India, for example, the article.
Yes.
One of the things it talks about is the youth and the technology aspect of the watch business and the wearable side of the opportunity, and Titan being not such a big force in that and all that, which is valid. I'm not at all denying that. In a way, one of the questions asked was about that and how Titan is going to step up its game in that. Without doubt, we know that we are weak in that. We need to become stronger, and we have acquired a company. And I spoke about the Hug Innovations and all that. So
yes,
we have some work to do there. Okay, but notwithstanding that, I don't know what it means when somebody says Titan needs a makeover. Because just because we're an 80% jewelry company, in financial terms, what does that mean? For example, if I were to take skin,
yes,
the price of a bottle of skin is 2,000 rupees.
Correct, sir.
The price of a single, so the transaction of skin is about 2,000 rupees.
True.
The transaction of Tanishq is about 100,000 rupees.
Yes.
Okay, so every skin, 50 times skin transaction is Tanishq. Now, if I reduce the turnover of Tanishq is roughly 20,000 crores, let us say roughly.
Okay.
Okay. Now, if I reduce that by 50,
yes, sir,
it is 400 crores. So, if I look at the customer equivalent, I'm just reducing it to give you a sense of the customer equivalent. Okay.
Okay.
Now, the turnover of skin is some 200 crores.
Yes, sir.
The equivalent turnover of Tanishq is 400 crores. Which means the number of customers that I touch with a Tanishq is not that many more times than the number of times of skin that we touch. Now, if I'm giving delight with skin to one skin customer, and if I'm giving delight to a Tanishq, with Tanishq to a Tanishq customer, today I may be doing only 5 times of delight to a Tanishq with Tanishq as with skin. Now, skin is only 6 years old. Tanishq is 25 years old.
Got it.
Therefore, from a time point of view, in the next 2-3 years, the number of customers that I can delight with skin could well be similar to Tanishq.
Super.
So the turnover of Tanishq may still be 10 times even at that time, because that's the nature of that category, right? So therefore, what is this makeover? Is the makeover that the share of skin to Titan company should be 40%? It can never be.
It cannot.
No perfume can contribute. No bag can contribute. Therefore, like Tiffany is only into jewelry.
Absolutely.
Does it make it into a, does Tiffany need a makeover?
Not.
So I don't know what makeover means. Obviously, we need to do much better in our new businesses, like Pooja asked,
Correct.
than earlier, because we
Yes.
have entered into many new businesses which haven't become as successful. I agree totally.
Yes.
We have been on the back foot on the wearables business. I spoke about it. We need to get our game right on that. These two are facts, totally agree.
Got
Now,
it.
if the success in these two mean that Titan has now had a makeover, okay, if that is the definition, fair enough. But
That's a
otherwise,
vague term.
I don't know what Titan needs a makeover means. That's all I'm saying, nothing more.
All right,
That's a
that's what I
vague
wanted
term.
to understand from you. Thank you so much for letting
That's a
us
vague
know
term.
this.
Yeah.
Thank you,
So
sir.
actually, yeah, Beena Pinto wanted to ask a question, and I know there was a confusion. Beena Patre took it. Beena, just ask it quickly, please.
Good evening, sir. Thank you, Rachna, for allowing me to ask my question. Sir, could you please tell us a little more about your operations in Dubai and how the international subsidiaries contributing to the top line? Are you also looking at further expanding the jewelry business internationally?
Thank you, Beena. We actually have a subsidiary in the free trade zone, and then we have an operating subsidiary inside Dubai City. I mean UAE, because
Yes,
that's the structure through which we need to operate in those countries. Currently, the contribution of this is very, 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 very small, because, like I said, the jewelry business is in a normal year close to 20,000 crores, and this is just one store that we set up in Dubai, we also set it up in a pandemic year and all that, but it has done much, much, much better than our plan on every KPI, and in a way sort of reinforced our feeling about the potential that Tanishq had and the opportunity in that, in a way, the upper middle class NRI population in the UAE and the GCC and all that. And we are stepping on the gas on the expansion front. We are opening more stores in the Gulf, particularly in UAE and a couple of the neighboring countries. So the trajectory will be steep going. I won't want to share specific details,
Okay,
but
sir.
like I told you, like I was the CEO of the jewelry division for 15 years before I became the MD. The international dreams or responsibility was under me also. But in a way, because India was such a large country, even I ended up giving not enough importance to the international opportunity. But the minute we moved it out of from under me to directly report to Bhaskar, and then I moved on into Bhaskar's seat, the whole thing changed, and the impetus, the impulse, the focus changed. And what we couldn't do in 10 years, we did it in 6 months, which is open the first year in Dubai.
Wow.
So the opportunity is very large. Like if I take even other countries, you know, the USA and Canada, you know, the kind of diaspora which lives there. You know, it's 100,000 US dollar is the per capita GDP of the Indian diaspora, NRI PIO in the US against a 60,000 average for the country. So we are right, the most affluent ethnic group in the US, even more affluent than the whites.
That's right.
Therefore, the American opportunity, the Canada opportunity, everything is there. I won't say more about those, you know, for reasons of strategy and secrecy, but very much on the horizon for us to play.
Thank you so much, sir, for that insight.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the insightful interactions. Really, sir, it will be always there, etched in our memory. And sir, you know, I just wanted to share this. Our mentor, Mr. Vishnu Dhanaka, what he says, he jokingly says that all Millennium Mams should wear their DMAT account number studded in Tanishq pendant. I invite Preeti, our Vice President, to give the vote of thanks.
Good evening, sir. So thank you very much for giving us, sir, #your gift of time, sir. So the Wikipedia says that Titan is an Indian lifestyle company which manufactures watches, jewelry, and eyewear. But sir, I would like to say, sir, Titan is an Indian super style company which produces love, emotion, confidence, and convenience, sir. So you touch the lives of the people when they need it most, be it their first interview, first date, or engagement, sir. Sir, or even Diwali or their graduation day. So the list goes on. Titan is engraved in the Indian heart in each and every of their valuable moments, sir. So thank you for coming on our platform and sharing your valuable insight with us, sir. So my key takeaway from today's session were your multiple stakeholder focus, sir. So you made it very clear to us, sir. Thank you very much for that, sir. I would like to thank our mentors, Mr. Dhanuka, Mr. Bhuwania, for constantly empowering us. And thank you all our members for joining us in this session today. Thank you, Mr. Venkataraman, again, for sharing with us, sir, the gift of smiles, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Preeti. And
Thank you. Thank
I
you.
would like to, just sum up that multiple stakeholder focus in just one phrase, which is quite powerful for us at Titan, at least, which is being good is good for business.